When it comes to getting out of one's head, and there's a lot of talk out there about that particular topic, I want to get out of my head, and books, and user manuals on how to do so, often excluding the most necessary information on how to do precisely what is being suggested. Because the problem initially is that being in one's head, for many cases, I'd say probably the overwhelming many, is it's an auto defense mechanism to avoid being in your body. It's avoiding being in your body because of what's in there. And by that I mean the languages that are in there. And in this case, those languages are those oh so dreaded languages of feelings and emotions and vulnerabilities. There are absolutely no platitudes from any kind of There are not enough platitudes or willpower in the world to bypass doing the needed work to recover those often repressed and suppressed facets and aspects of oneself. That's not to be judgmental either. Why wouldn't one have an auto defense mechanism of being in the body and avoiding these dreaded feelings and emotions and vulnerabilities, especially when seemingly all the cultures at large have value systems that denigrate them and venerate this idea of toxic strength. And by that I mean rigidity, denialism, playing unbothered by things that absolutely do bother, and for good reason. Playing unbothered does not help being unbothered. It just creates a splitting effect and an unsustainable alternate projection to inhabit. One that is just as painful, but the payoff is it acts as a distraction and a pride and ego sustainer. But the problem, and it's not to say ego doesn't have its place and pride doesn't have its place. Of course they do, but not so much in a splitting system. If we're in that splitting system, those two are auto-defense mechanisms. They're auto-defense mechanisms usually to bypass fear. Fear of not being invulnerable. And in most of us, these underlying systems that are being avoided are woefully underdeveloped, of course. So when they are first accessed, they're raw, confused, angry, wrathful, spiteful, and they don't know where to go or what to do. That's because they need your help. They need your help into unlearning the things that put them in this place to begin with, and to relearn more homogeneous interfaces with them. And for what it's worth, I can tell you from personal experience that after working with these systems, and they are made of soft things, if you will, and applying rigid systems to things that are intricate and gentle and delicate, but also very powerful. Well, they don't care much for that, and will act and react accordingly. But if you can learn to understand them and what they're desperately trying to communicate as best as they can with what little they have, it's like an organic gateway to what many have described as something like Zen. But it's a byproduct. It's organic. It's nothing to be put on a pedestal or sought after or strived for laboriously, because that is also avoidance. There are very productive resources out there to do all of this. And I would like to do my part to help bring some more awareness to them. But there's still a lot of innovation that's required, because even with universal similarities, there is no one-size-fits-all for anything. And that old axiom of know thyself is far from a luxury, but a necessity. And it's knowing thyself beyond the constructs. I think what most people are most afraid of when it comes to these underlying forces, if you will, is because we're all beholden to them to some degree or another. And you cannot control them. But you can work with them. You can't control the ocean, but you can learn how to sail in it. You can learn how to swim in it. Hell, you can have a wild adventure hour, scuba diving and recording your exploits. And have a fantastic time in the process. Or a frightening encounter. But you can't control it. Not in any traditional sense of that meaning. And if you can navigate it, you just might find it gets to a point where you can become it, in a sense. Meld with it. Because that's what all the traditions say, that people strive for. Oh, you're a drop in the ocean and blah, blah, blah. Well, you can experience what that really means for yourself. And it's something that's a little too hard to describe accurately, because there's agency. And nothing is left behind. But nothing too heavy can be taken with you. That reminds me, there's a lot to be said about, letting go of something. People will say, oh, just let go. Yeah, good luck with that. You have to address the reasons why your unconscious is holding on to it to begin with. That's how you can loosen that grip. Trying to will it into oblivion is not going to help. One of the best groups that I know of that have been making a lot of material available for people in a more palatable way is Jung to Live By. And they have a YouTube channel where they essentially discuss the magic of the psyche and the clinical results and decades of shit testing to back it up. I'll leave a link in the comments section for anybody who's interested. And one more thing. If you're not an avid swimmer, probably best not to jump into the deep end just yet. Stay in the shallows and get comfortable. You've got to know your limits. And, it's not about self-annihilation. There's a lot of really bad advice out there. And I think it's time to start cleaning up the ocean a little bit.